I don't think directionless is a pejorative.
It doesn't mean total chaos.
It's an opportunity to think about how we move through space, to think about how we interpret things.
For me, it's something you might strive for. It's a choice, a chance where everything is possible.
Directionless is a definition of freedom, not an imposition of a direction. So that means there can be multiple directions that can live together.
And I like to think of this as kind of stacked landscapes, this idea that we're not in one place, but in fact we're in many places simultaneously, depending on how we choose to look at our coordinates.
This exhibition, like its title, honors that boundlessness of directionless, and Rashid invited Christina, Charles, and myself to invite other artists further on in that same prompt.
This gallery functions as a platform, and it functions as almost a tool for amplification. By bringing in other artists, we get to amplify multiple voices, and we get to have an expanded chorus.
This island of Menorca, which feels like a throughway for many different routes, energetically, commercially, physically, yeah, it feels very apt to have something that feels open and flowing.
This is a place to be, a place to share, but it's also a place to be with yourself. And I think it is important to find those moments to reflect.
There are two things. One is my own work, and the other is the works of artists that I selected. At this point in my life, their work became important to me in one way or another.
There are moments where you see really kind of aggressive and gestural painting. There are other moments where you see really rigorous kind of conceptual interventions.
I really appreciate, for instance, Hannah Levy's amorphous forms, where you can see yourself reflected, but then there is this extraordinary expansion and extension of what you would expect yourself to be able to do.
And that kind of tension or dichotomy will always have something to do with the idea of directionlessness, or trying to figure out where one exists in the world, or where the world is hospitable to our bodies or not.
The ways that Hugh Hayden's carved work both comes and goes is something exciting to me. You know, even the way that the branches of the tree, so maybe there's a directionlessness in growth, but there's also multiple directions going on in the carving.
I was really drawn by the Baselitz drawings. I hadn't seen those. The rigor of that mark making and the agitation of that speaks to directionless, but at the same time, it speaks not to chaos, but in terms of like an internal stirring, and how art again can find a way to contain that.
The theme of the show made sense in terms of my own work. We as a culture form ideas and meanings. That meaning exists in our thoughts and our minds and our perceptions, not in the world. There's no order, there's a randomness. I was essentially blown away how poetically seamless those works talk to each other. It's just amazing. It was without intention.
Coming to this island for the first time and walking into the gallery, experiencing the energy of the garden, seeing the relational connection between architecture and the landscape and the sea, and creating a space where one could actually reset and to take in and to be transported by work.
Art reminds us that we have to think about things and think about things differently.
There is not a way of seeing a work of art. There are many ways. Not always you feel the same with the same piece. You have a different perception.
We often think of direction as being a kind of fixed destination, the place where we have to get to. But really it's much more like a kind of intuitive wandering and meandering.
And kind of digging into that uncertainty is where progress and artistic exploration comes from.
To distill a moment, to distill time, to distill an experience, and art has the power to do that.
What excites me is to just be present and to engage in the time that we're in, to not avert my eyes, to be really present and to be around other artists who are sharing those same concerns and ambitions.